We all feel it from time to time, that sinking feeling of losing. Whether it's a game, a competition, or just the daily battles against life's challenges, feeling like we're losing can be utterly demoralizing. But where do these feelings really come from? And are they always accurate reflections of reality? In this video, we'll explore some common reasons why we perceive ourselves as losing even when objective measures may tell a different story. Comparing ourselves to others. One of the biggest drivers of feeling like a loser is constantly comparing ourselves to others. In today's hyper-connected, social media-saturated world, it's never been easier to peek behind the curtain at how seemingly perfect other people's lives appear. We scroll through curated highlights of friends' vacation photos, professional accomplishments, happy family moments, and more, without seeing the full reality or struggles behind the scenes. This warped comparison game almost inevitably makes our own lives feel inadequate by comparison. We must remember that the highs shared online rarely tell the whole story. Nobody posts about average, mundane moments, or difficulties. The highlights shared are not an objective measure of overall happiness or success. Yet it's human nature for our brains to make snap judgments and draw conclusions without full context or awareness of logical fallacies like selection bias. Breaking free of the comparison trap and trying to appreciate our lives for what they are, flaws and all, can help reduce feelings of perceived failure or loss. Unrealistic expectations. Closely tied to social comparison is having unrealistic expectations for ourselves and our achievements. Especially in competitive fields, it's easy to get caught up in measuring value and self-worth solely by external metrics like income, status symbols, ambitious goals met within tight timelines, and more. But perfection is an impossible standard, and failure or delay is part of the human experience. When we define success so narrowly that any perceived misstep feels like a catastrophic failure, it's a setup for constant anxiety, disappointment in ourselves, and beliefs that we're losing. There are many paths to fulfillment in life beyond narrow definitions. Internal experiences of growth, contribution, relationships, and well-being, while harder to quantify, are just as valid measures of success. Giving ourselves permission for imperfect progress can help manage expectations. Appreciating small wins and recognizing our worth beyond accomplishments can reduce all or nothing, black or white thinking that fuels beliefs of failure. With flexibility and compassion, we can reframe perceived losses into opportunities for learning instead. Emotional biases. Our perceptions are also shaped significantly by emotional biases that color how we interpret and recall experiences. When feeling anxious, depressed, or lacking confidence, it's easy for negative interpretations and memories to dominate our inner narratives. Losses and mistakes are exaggerated, while successes feel minimized. At the same time, cognitive biases like negativity bias, confirmation bias, and selective memory distort our thinking. We tend to dwell on disappointments while glossing over triumphs. Any evidence that confirms pre-existing beliefs of inadequacy gets amplified while counter-evidence gets dismissed or forgotten. Over time, these subtle emotional distortions can build up self-fulfilling prophecies and entrenched beliefs that we're forever destined to lose out. Yet recognizing our inbuilt cognitive vulnerabilities is empowering. With practice, we can learn to interrogate negative thoughts, broaden perspectives through alternative viewing, and reframe perceptions in a kinder light. Measuring internal self-talk against objective facts, getting other viewpoints, and focusing on proportion also helps balance emotional distortions that fuel feelings of loss. Achieving a calmer, more compassionate understanding of ourselves is key to overcoming the mental traps of perceived defeat. External forces beyond our control. It's easy to internalize setbacks caused by external factors outside our power or responsibility. Layoffs, economic downturns, natural disasters, accidents of fate, health issues, toxic environments, so many everyday struggles are beyond individual control. Yet, if we interpret hardships too personally, it breeds negative self-beliefs like thinking we're somehow defective or lesser for forces completely out of our hands. Success and failure often depend more on luck, timing, and wider circumstances than any inherent qualities. Intellectual honesty requires recognizing we're not solely in the driver's seat and that temporary defeats don't define worth. With compassion, we can reframe challenges as shared human experiences instead of personal judgments. focusing on what matters most, our values, relationships, and contributions, rather than fleeting metrics also balances perspectives during inevitable storms beyond our influence. Accepting some situations as unlucky, but not a reflection on character, can lift the mental weight of perceived loss or failure. Perfectionistic tendencies. Closely tied to unrealistic expectations and all-or-nothing thinking are perfectionistic traits that plague many high-achieving personalities prone to feelings of not living up to potential or of somehow losing out compared to imagined perfection. Yet perfectionism is ultimately a setup for chronic dissatisfaction, stress, and low self-worth based on impossible standards no human can achieve. The reality is that mistakes, average efforts, and nonlinear development are normal parts of being human. While striving for excellence has its place, perfectionistic tendencies often reflect underlying anxious needs for control, approval-seeking, or fear-based avoidance of any perceived failure instead of healthy achievement motivation. Learning to accept imperfection, appreciate attempts versus just results, cut ourselves slack through challenging phases, and focus on long-term progress over perfection allows for more joy, resilience, and fulfillment amid inevitable variations in performance or circumstances. Self-compassion is key to overcoming toxic perfectionism's grasp and reframing setbacks in a healthy light that counters beliefs we're somehow losing. Lack of perspective. A fundamental need for a wider perspective often contributes to many cognitive traps. When too deeply immersed in daily stresses, it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture, both in terms of seeing past temporary challenges to long-term health, happiness, and life purpose, and realizing our relatively privileged position compared to wider global struggles. Taking a step back through perspective-building practices like journaling about lessons learned, gratitude exercises, volunteering, travel, exploring different cultures, or simply appreciating small moments of nature's beauty reminds us of life's infinite complexity beyond our narrow fears or preoccupations. The wisdom of perspective helps us see our stumbles in proportion to greater hopes, recognize both light and darkness as parts of being human, feel a connection to something larger than ourselves, and cultivate compassion for shared struggles instead of beliefs that we alone are somehow defective or losing. Feeling rooted in purpose beyond fleeting desires or worries gives inner confidence that counters perceptions of personal lack based on surface-level snapshots in time. Moving past the illusion of loss. While feelings of perceived loss and failure sometimes serve instinctive protective functions to motivate improvement, they're often more illusions than reality. Distortions from emotional biases, unrealistic expectations, lack of perspective, or cognitive traps rather than objective measures of our true selves or potential. The challenge is recognizing when inner narratives need recalibration instead of reinforcement. With self-awareness, flexibility, and compassion, we can gradually learn to appreciate life's imperfections and view challenges as learning versus judgment. Feel secure enough in ourselves beyond outcomes or validation. Recognize external factors beyond control. Keep perspectives balanced instead of black and white. Extend kindness to our humanity instead of harsh criticism. In this way, we gain freedom from being defined by momentary highs and lows alone, cultivate inner confidence rooted in growth rather than fleeting accomplishments, and overcome the mental anguish of constantly feeling we are somehow failing or losing at life's challenges. The process isn't simple, but with practice and patience, perception can shift from the illusion of loss to embracing life's beautiful, messy, unfolding one step at a time. Now go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe to feel lifted up through every challenging season you're born into. Stay strong.